All right, we're not live. We're recording right now. Soon we're going to be live. That's how big time we're going to get with our new segment. Back it up. Special guest John Crawley dialing in from Utah's hotel room. Corey Winkoff here. We got Coach Mike Salippo out of BU. John O'Derna from Manhattan College, the Jaspers. Crawley, Coach Crawley, JC, John. We got a lot of names for you. You wear a lot of hats. You do a lot in the lacrosse world. How you doing out there, my man?
I'm doing good. Settling into my hotel room. I got Ryan Brown back here. He's my roommate, and right now we're in our 24-hour quarantine after our second COVID test. So he's going to be in the background over there. We are kind of limited to the confines of this room, so we're settling in. All's good.
Well, then you're welcome.
Nice. So delivery or?
Oh yeah, we got delivery. I had Starbucks delivered earlier. They also bring up meals. I think it's like breakfast, lunch, dinner, a couple snacks as well. They basically just bring it to our door. Yeah.
How's the food? I know the NBA guys have been complaining.
It's actually good. We had the same. So it's a company called Superfood. I guess it's like it's like a pretty healthy option for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We had the same thing last year, actually. So for all of our meals, there's basically a guy down in the lobby. You know, it wasn't bad. We had omelets this morning. It was like
Western omelets.
It's like Western omelets
Ah.
with some potatoes, and then I just Uber Eats some Starbucks. So
What's your Starbucks order, Crawley?
so I'm a huge cold brew guy. But I got a hot coffee this morning, and I got a cold brew with no ice to have for later.
Wow.
Wow.
In the fridge.
Savage,
So
man.
just forward thinking there, because I know I'm
Yeah.
gonna need one later.
No ice, smart. So it doesn't water down. Yeah, you like the buzz, huh?
Exactly. Oh yeah.
Crawley knows how defensemen are going to approach him in his first game already. He just knows how they're going to come out at him.
Well,
Yeah, matter. He's gonna be twitching. Yeah.
Pre-games is pre-workout, man. That's been a staple since I think actually like junior year of high school. I think the one game that I didn't drink pre-workout before in my from high school to college to pros was 2 years ago in the MLL when I was playing for the Hounds, and it was the only game that I didn't take pre-workout before and pulled my hamstring first dodge of the game. So now I need to have pre-workout before the game.
Now I gotta ask, because we got a Long Island guy in the locker room who just takes the pre-workout, like no water, just takes the cup and then just scoop in. Like, are you one of those or?
No, I'm not that hardcore.
Yeah.
So that's I've seen that a couple times, but that's a lot.
I mean,
I'm sure
who are you
Ryan does
recruiting?
that, right?
Yeah, I've seen him do that.
No. John will get to the end and he'll just put water in the C4 cup or the bumped up cup and drink it out of the actual container.
That is true. I will do that.
Right.
That's usually schedule that for a leg day because that's you need the extra pre-workout for that.
Don't waste any of it. That's right.
Oh yeah.
I thought Ryan maybe would take a scoop and pour it on the head of his stick. A couple extra miles per hour from that.
That's nice, John. Wow, good.
So Crawley, let's get into it, man. We want to, before we talk about what you're doing right now, why you're, quarantined in this hotel room and what you're getting into, which is pretty exciting. Let's go back and talk about your personal lacrosse journey. How'd you end up where you are in that seat right now? And even start with when you first picked up a stick.
Yeah, sure. I first picked up a stick, actually. My neighbor, who is my best friend even still today, Tommy Amato, he went to his first lacrosse practice one day, and I was like a huge baseball guy. I kind of played everything growing up, baseball, football, wrestling, basketball, and I was a huge baseball guy. My dad was a huge baseball guy, and my neighbor went to a lacrosse practice, and I was like probably trying to convince him against it because he was also on my baseball team. And then he came back and he had it, and I was like, all right, I want to try that. So my dad took me to Lacrosse Unlimited. I got a stick for the first time and kind of just started playing a little bit. My first coach was Marty Bergen, who was an All-American at Hopkins back in his day. And his son was one of my friends who was on my, PAL team back then. And just kind of started to get into it. Started to like it. I honestly definitely liked football and wrestling more. Those were kind of my sports growing up. And then, I got into once middle school kind of came around, you had to pick basically baseball or lacrosse. And I was tired of baseball and picked lacrosse. So kind of went into there, started playing some travel stuff with the Long Island Outlaws at first. Didn't make FLG. I think it was the Long Island Junior Lizards at the time. Didn't make that team. The first year, I think it was a 7th and 8th grade team. I think the only 7th grader to make it was Brian Ward. Ended up going to Ohio State, was a teammate of mine through all high school. And then finally did make FLG, was probably the 7th attackman on that team. We had guys, we had Dylan Malloy, we had Justin Gutterding. We had some really good players on that team, which both of you guys coached. You guys were our coach my first year. And like I said, I was afraid to put the stick in my left hand. I was probably one of the worst guys, at least on our attack.
John, you might have been 7th physically, but you definitely weren't 7th emotionally, all right?
Exactly.
No way.
I was definitely there, and definitely having a good time in the hotel room and doing that stuff with all the guys. And I guess my biggest transition into understanding that lacrosse was kind of a possibility for me. It was honestly one, making that team, because I think that when you're growing or when you're kind of going through the club world, you're not really sure where you stack up in terms of like, all right, like how are, can you go to college for this? Can you not go to college for this? Are you kind of that good? And then, when I did make that FLG team, it kind of gave me a little bit of hope to be like, okay, if I can make one of the best teams on Long Island, and Long Island is one of the best places in the country at lacrosse, then maybe I do, kind of have a shot. If I'm, one of the six attackmen who made this team, maybe I can, and I, after that, started to really dive into lacrosse, kind of became my main sport. I mean, that, wrestling and football were kind of my main thing. So kind of going into high school, made varsity as a freshman. I was a 5'4", 135-pound freshman, 140-pound freshman. Actually, by the end of that summer, going into FLG, playing for the U15 Nationals, actually in Florida with you guys, I got hurt.
Casual brag.
Yeah.
Sorry, casual brag on that one.
It was it was just the Nationals.
Oh, everybody froze.
No big deal.
Is everyone frozen?
Mike,
Yeah, Slippo is, which is awesome. This is good for us. So
the
you
only
keep
time
talking.
he shuts up.
Yeah, that's Zoom. That's the Zoom god saying, "Here you go."
We were in Florida for FLG, U15 Nationals. I had hurt my back. Honestly, kind of the whole summer. I think I actually hurt it originally during football my freshman year, and kind of continued to. I wrestled with it, played the spring of my freshman year with it, and then into the summer. And I really, the biggest thing of the summer was this, this tournament down in Florida. It was killing me. I remember literally like in between games, going to the hotel and ice bathing. I remember, everyone kind of going out to dinner. It was literally in Disney World, and everybody was like doing really fun stuff. And I like literally remember having to be, in the ice bath pretty much every night to kind of be on the field. I think the last game I actually didn't finish it and got like taken off the field because of my back, and it was just a bad situation. So ended up getting x-rays. X-rays were negative of anything, MRI negative of anything. I got a CT scan, and the CT scan showed on both sides my L4 and L5 pars on the spine on each side. I had stress fractures. I had another stress fracture in my transverse on both sides as well. So basically, my lower back was in shambles, and I had to go into a back brace for 8 months. It was literally like the material of this. It was like a plastic back brace where I had to have like a white shirt under to like have it, and then the back brace, and then my neck shirt over it. I literally have pictures somewhere of me like with the back brace. It's like literally like up to here. So
we need those.
Yeah, I'll get you one. I know I have one. So I had to deal with that. And then that was kind of the turning point, in my opinion, of my kind of career, because I ended up going to a gym called Acceleration Sports Training, which is a gym that honestly a lot of Long Island lacrosse players go to. I had heard from actually Mr. Chanichuk because Mike Chanichuk had this same injury and he rehabbed it there when he was in high school. So went there, started to rehab, and that's kind of where I like really started to fall in love with strength training, lifting, all that stuff. I started to become super interested in, the science behind it. I, got really interested into diet as well. And, I was really inspired by some of the trainers there to, really wholeheartedly kind of dive into this stuff because quite frankly, I needed to. And that, that decision was kind of, I have to pick one sport. I got to pick football, I got to pick wrestling, or I got to pick lacrosse. And I picked lacrosse. I think that I probably loved wrestling the most. I was probably the best at wrestling at the time. I knew that Long Island wrestling and Long Island lacrosse in terms of getting into schools and kind of having a career, if there's one to dive into, I would probably say Long Island lacrosse. If I lived in, Pennsylvania or New Jersey and I was wrestling at, the rate that I was, I probably would have went that route. Like I said, my freshman year, I was 5'4", 135 pounds. And my sophomore year, I was 5'7", so hit a little bit of a growth spurt, and 175 pounds. So I literally put on 40 pounds, 30, 40 pounds in an off season while only taking my back brace off to lift. And so I think that was like the biggest turning point for me, honestly. I still have kind of a love for, strength training, all of that stuff today. I think that that's a massive reason I've kind of been able to progress. But like I said, that sophomore year was definitely one that I took my biggest leap. My junior year, I, continued to develop. I grew another 3 inches. I ended up being 5'10" as a junior. And, just a completely different athlete from 2 years before. 5 foot, from 5'4", 135 to a junior who was, 5'10", 185 pounds. And, I could move at least okay. I still didn't have a left hand at all, but, I was able to at least get to my right a little bit more. So I think that was a huge turning point for me. That development in high school obviously pours into college. I got to Hopkins, and again, very much like I was the 6th attackman on that FLG team. I was probably the 12th attackman on our depth chart. I actually think I definitely was in the fall. And I actually have pictures of the depth chart because I used to make them my background of my phone. And I was like the 12th attackman on that team. But like I said, I was really dedicated to the strength and conditioning aspect and the wall ball, the shooting, all the extra work kind of aspects as a freshman. And I actually got a call from Coach Petro over winter break, and he asked what he thought about playing midfield. And I was like, I'll do whatever I need to do. And actually that freshman year winter, from recommendations from Coach Jay, who was our strength coach, took dance lessons because my feet were so bad. I was pretty slow. I did a lot of different stuff. I pretty much made it a full-time job to do whatever I could to get on the field. And I started this spring, the first depth chart came out. I was a midfielder, but I was, 14th there, made my way up to 12 after the first week. Made my way up to 9 after the second week. And then all of a sudden, before our first scrimmage, I was the sixth midi. And I was, basically slowly climbing my way up to get on the field. I don't think that that's because I was doing anything great. I think that the only reason I was able to get on the field is because I was able to go set picks for Will Stanwyck and get run over and then get him a short stick and then get the hell out of the way. But I was pretty good at getting run over. So I, slowly make my way on the field by, not by scoring goals in practice, not by, smoking people off the dodge, but honestly doing very little things that Coach Benson really stressed in our offense, setting picks, seeing 2 passes ahead, moving without the ball, dodging and just moving the ball forward. I think that I just did those very little things pretty well. By game week, I was the 4th midi on the depth chart, kind of almost competing to be on the first line. I don't think that I was anywhere near the first line at that point. I think that I was probably rightfully a second line midi. Ended up playing every game my freshman year as a second liner. And literally we were an invert line, and I went out there and set picks for, our better players and moved off the ball for our better players to score. And that was my role. And I knew that. So that kind of, transitioned obviously to the rest of my career. Obviously my role kind of grew, obviously with playing time, you start to develop a little bit more. You know, you're playing with the likes of Ryan Brown, Wells Stanwyck, Brandon Ben, you know, Rob Guida, Connor Reed, Holden Katoni. You're playing with kind of the first guys, and you learn a lot. And I definitely put a lot of work in, you know, off the field to continue to get better. And, you know, my role grew my sophomore year. I started to kind of flirt with being on the first line. I would go in there probably, you know, for like 4 or 5 possessions a game on the first line, and would kind of alternate that with being on the second line. You know, junior year was blessed to be a captain, and kind of became, you know, kind of the guy on the first line when we had a lot of middies go down. Actually, that year we had a tough year due to injuries and stuff like that. And then my senior year, same thing. So senior year, I started to play some attack, started to play some midi, kind of did a little bit of both. But I think that, like, you know, in entirety of my journey, I think that I've pretty much, in every team that I've kind of been on, I've definitely had to kind of chip my way to the top of you know, of at least getting onto the field. And I think that I always kind of did that through a lot of extra work. Like I said, a really, really large commitment to the weight room, you know, really large commitment to wall ball, shooting, doing extra stuff like that. I mean, I learned probably the most that I could have in terms of stick work and shooting from my roommate right here, Ryan Brown. I think that we became honestly best friends after my freshman year. And, you know, we worked, you know, 4 or 5 days a week shooting outside of practice. You know, we did lifts. You know, if we had 2 lifts a week, me and him were lifting 4 or 5 times a week. We did those extra things. We did it together. And, you know, it's pretty cool how after we both graduated, I played with him for 2 years with the Charlotte Hounds, and now for another 2 years here with the Atlas. So that's kind of, I mean, that was a pretty long-winded way of putting it, but, you know, that was kind of like, you know, the way and the progression of, you know, of my career, I'd probably say.
One was definitely, cool. I think Mike will appreciate this because it popped in my head. I think something that stuck with me was taking a picture of the depth chart. Coach Salippo is a big mental warfare guy. So I think if I'm speaking for him because I know him really well, that's pretty cool to hear that a guy basically waged mental warfare on themselves. And to be that motivated by what you saw. I think there are so many people that are in that position that go the other way and just be like, well, this isn't for me because I can't get over this mountain. And that's right. For some guys, it's a limit that they put on themselves. So, you know, John, obviously we coached you, but I've always thought a lot of your story because I know I expressed this to you earlier, like the progression. You're a guy that exploded after that summer that we coached you. You know, you were a good lacrosse player when we coached you, and 365 days later, you were one of the best players on Long Island, and then end up being one of the best players, obviously, in the world at this point. The fact that you're playing in you know, the biggest pro league that we have. So I think it's a really unique and cool story that I'm glad that I'm somewhat a part of, although, you know, I'm not going to say credit. I'm not going to say I'm the gatekeeper because I coach the defense, but you know, I think it's really cool. No. Yeah, Corey
so I was going to say, can someone be the gatekeeper here? Let's go.
But I just think it's pretty cool, your mindset and the way you attacked it, and everything you said. You committed to the weight room, you committed to the extra work, you committed to going out and getting run over on picks. Like everything that you can control, you controlled. And I think that's a really cool and unique story that more players should wrap their arms around.
Yeah, Crawley,
I appreciate that.
This is the gas you up part of this, back it up, you know, of the session here.
Segment 2, gas you up.
Yeah, this is gas you up portion here, what we do best. But no, like you said, I mean, most in this instant gratification world, the fact that you put that on your iPhone so that you could see it daily where you were instead of being like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to find another opportunity where it's easier, is sick. And more kids need to follow that. And I would like to chirp Ryan now. I'm sure he gets his ability from all the extra work you probably dragged him to do, right? Because those shooters like to just, you know, hang out, right, Ryan? Are you back there or what? Can we chirp you a little bit here?
He's in the bathroom, but I will say he was a Brownie. What were you your freshman year weight-wise? Fat. He said fat. He was like 210. He was like 210 his freshman year.
I wanted to be good, I had to commit to getting in shape.
Yeah. So Brownie lost, you know, what was it, 15, 20 pounds? Like from freshman to sophomore year, you know, he was man up out of the box guy your freshman year.
Yeah, I was like second line
I mean, should we just have
So
him
you
come
guys-
on screen and do his lacrosse
So
journey?
you guys,
Yeah.
wait a second. No, we didn't. So you guys worked off each other well. So, Ryan helped you hit the wall and work the stick stuff, and you got him into shape. This is, it was a give and take, it seems, with this relationship.
A lot of it was, I'd
Yeah,
say.
we kind of just did the same thing after practice for sophomore, junior, and senior year.
Yeah.
Well, at least for me, for your first 3 years.
Yeah. So,
That's awesome.
we did a lot. We did a lot extra. There were definitely other guys who would cling on and do similar. I think that our favorite time of the year in college was ironically wintertime finals. And the reason for that is because you got to study and do that. It was like wake up at 9, go get some food. We'll go shoot. Then we'll work out. Then we'll do stairs. Then we'll go and probably study a little bit. Then probably hit the wall a little later. And that was like a 3-week thing where it was like we felt like lacrosse players, and that's like all we ever wanted to do.
Lacrosse literally all day
cool.
long for
Yeah.
a little bit of school.
Ryan, I have a question. Ryan, what hand are you? Are you a lefty or a righty?
Righty, naturally
You're
right-handed.
You're naturally right. So when you write, you're strong-handed right.
I'm strong-handed right-handed. Like I throw a football righty.
Gotcha. And then all two-handed sports, naturally you're right-handed as well. Well, are you a golfer?
Naturally.
You're righty? Gotcha.
Golf righty. Yeah.
Yeah, but for Team USA, it was the lefty.
Yeah. Team USA I was lefty. Sophomore year at Hopkins, I was the lefty.
Yeah.
Absurd.
Wow.
I can't wrap my head
Being-
around that. That's
Being
absurd.
good is fun.
Yeah.
Being good at sports is fun. Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Good for you,
awesome.
man.
Well, and
Yeah.
Krause also being I like to say with our guys all the time, like you were the O lineman, like running backs and receivers and quarterbacks get all the glory, but you were the O lineman setting picks, getting body bagged, and that got you on the field. And then look where it projected you, man. It's awesome. Propelled you is the right
I think
word.
one extension of that too that's underrated too is like in order to you probably worked your way up the ladder by like just knowing what you're supposed to do better than other people too, right? Like I add that to the controllables. That's as important as the lifting, as the wall ball.
Mm-hmm.
If you can know what's going on and be instinctual out there and understand the purpose, you put yourself in such a good spot. Other guys don't sink their teeth into it, and they don't know what's going on sometimes, and it makes it hard to play them.
Right.
Jo,
Yeah,
so Jo, with that being said, and one of your aspects in terms of your controllables, Crawley, is the portion of just like physical fitness. Let's dive into that a little bit. Do we have some footage of you getting after it in your at-home gym? Because this is like so underrated on how it impacts players' games. I would like to see some of this.
So underrated. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I dive into it pretty holistically in terms of this stuff. Honestly, I kind of do a little bit of everything. I think that over quarantine, honestly, I was even able to dive in a little bit more. You guys know as coaches, it's not easy to like stay in shape while you're playing, especially in the summers with recruiting. It's either you're waking up early or you're doing it late, and that's hard to do. So quarantine honestly gave me a pretty good opportunity to get in the best. I'm honestly in the best shape that I've been in probably since my senior year of college. I dropped because of the way that the series was formatted. I knew that I had to, first of all, drop some weight. Second of all, be cardiovascularly, in a really good spot, playing 4 games in a week and then, the tournament after. So I kind of dove into it really holistically. I kind of split it up into segments. I could kind of give you guys a look to give you guys an idea. And I'm a little bit of a psycho with this stuff. I was in college too, in terms of recording like what I do. So in college I would write like my, pre-practice weight, my post-practice weight, whatever extra work I did. I have those pages somewhere. It would be like WB wall ball, SH shooting, and then it would be like SD for step downs, R for runners, stuff like that. So I was very particular and recorded a lot. But like this quarantine, I decided to do something as well. Can you see this?
Yeah.
So this is a notebook that I've been keeping over the past couple of weeks, where basically I have the day, what workout I was doing. These are just some things that I started the quarantine by wanting to do. I wanted to take, this greens supplement, a multivitamin, protein, salad, and I'd basically check it off. So I basically experimented with a bunch of stuff early on, but as it kind of moved on, it started to become a little bit more consistent. But week 1 through 4, 5 through 8, week 9. And then it kind of went into this where I would track, workout, lacrosse, whatever I was doing there, competing, and then diet. And, obviously workout being a run or upper body, lower body, whatever it was. For lacrosse, shooting, step downs, wall ball, shooting, wall ball. I ended up color coding it just because it was easier to figure out. The competing column was honestly any game or any arena that I could have competed in every day. I played a lot of horse with my brothers. I played, Catan, that board game with my family. Yes. So basically anything that I could do to compete on a daily basis, because it's hard to do that when you're in quarantine. And, I think you have to be somewhat purposeful about it, So I wanted to do at least +1 a day. There are definitely some zeros in there.
Plus 29.
Yeah, so that was the week. So I would go basically compete it, and then I'd get the week, and I'd get my week total of what I did, and then I'd try to compete week to week. So like I said, I was pretty anal about it. I obviously did a lot more. I got stitches in my shin, so I had to kind of do less running this week. And, but I tried to be, pretty particular about what I did. Running, I would write my runs. Diet wise, I was, +1 was good, -1 was bad. So I recorded a whole lot. Like I said, this is through week 18. And then I kind of took a look at, all right, overall, what was I doing, and what did the progression look like? So obviously the first couple of weeks were very heavy on lifts, and then I started to introduce running and shooting. And then, obviously later, the lifts kind of dwindled to 2 times a week, 3 times a week here. And then, running was obviously much more important as we went on, like I said, and then shooting as well. That became kind of the thing. So, at the end of it, this is kind of what my weeks look like, as averages looked, 4 times a week lifting, running, shooting. So I'm pretty particular in that stuff. I think that really helps me just to at least during quarantine, it's hard. Honestly, during any week, any month, anything that you're doing is going to be hard to make sure that you're, staying consistent, competing with yourself. I think that's something that I really, harp on. Even with our players at Lehigh, just, being, preparing competitively. I think that's something that I really, think that helped me as a player. And, like I said, the pictures of the depth chart, before every game, I've had this background on my phone for the last 2 months is our 2020 opponents for Atlas. Before every game when we play BU, starting that Sunday, BU is my background. And I think that making sure that you're constantly reminded of things, so that way you're always kind of keeping yourself in check with everything you have going on is important. So that's kind of like the holistic, look at what I do. But I do have some videos of kind of some different stuff if you want me to share that too. This is an example of an agility workout that I did actually at Hopkins, Coach Jay. We would do this kind of as a warm-up for any run. But this is like an example of like a pattern that we would do. Just some footwork to a kind of a sprint. That was one. Here's another. Just another pattern. So my whole kind of thing on agility stuff is I think that it's definitely one portion of developing your explosiveness, your footwork, stuff like that. More than anything, in my opinion, it's kind of just your feet head coordination. Before I got to college, I had never done a ladder in my life. I'd never done boxes like that in my life. I was like strictly lifting and plyometric jump stuff. And I don't think that necessarily like doing ladders or doing stuff like this is going to make you quicker, faster, but I do think that your coordination, it certainly helps with. So I definitely took a big leap with that when getting to Hopkins, because it was just a new thing that I'd never done. But it's certainly something that I do in terms of like that. So that'll be like a warm up. So I'll do basically 2 sets of those. There's like 5 or 6 patterns that I'll do. I'll do, if I can have a timer, I'll do 6 seconds on and then 14 seconds off. So on every 20 seconds I'll go. And that is usually like a 5 or 6 minute process. And and that'll be like my warm up for my lift. Get your head, feet coordination, kind of, move in and stuff like that. So that'll be like a typical like warm up for me. Then I'll go into, just some shooting or wall ball. This is certainly a place that, obviously as any offensive player, this should be a part of your week, consistently. I think that this is something that I definitely spent a lot of time on at Hopkins to, get me to be able to use my left hand. But one thing that I do like to do pretty consistently is catching bad passes. So a drill that I'll do is kind of put a goal behind me. There are times where, I would stand in the goal and Brownie would throw me bad passes, but now without, a training partner, you could kind of do it on the wall. But just trying to catching and seeing bad passes, righty and lefty. I try to break it up into stick side and off stick side. Just kind of little things like that. Behind the back catches, anything that you can kind of really, start to develop soft hand. Those are obviously those will be like the end of the wall ball session kind of work. You obviously have to hit your basic, no cradle, righty, lefty, overhand, that's stuff that you have to obviously spend a lot more time on. But those are kind of just some, different things that I'll do at the end of workouts and stuff like that. So that's kind of the agility piece, the stickwork shooting piece, a couple of things that I do. And then obviously, like I said, a massive part of what I do is lifting. I think that that's a really important piece. I try to lift in the off season at least 4 to 5 times a week. And then obviously, like I said, with this new format of these games, I definitely decreased that as we went on. As you saw in like kind of that, that workbook was 7, like I was like 7 the first week, then like 6, 6, 6, 5, 5. And then I slowly got down to 2. But here is an example, the old backyard gym here. This is doing, some split squat, single leg work. Like I said, I do have a bad back, so I can't back squat. I can't do many 2-leg lifts. But what I do is basically primarily single leg. Back when I started, with that bad back, I certainly wasn't doing this amount of weight. But obviously as the years go on, a huge thing that I do in my lifts is try to beat my last weight. If it's by 2.5 pounds, great. If it's by 5 pounds, great. But those are definitely little battles that I like to try to, I try to have on a daily basis. And then, just obviously, you cannot exclude upper body. That would be a sin. This is an example of probably, so this is video in the same gym. My brother spotted me. This is getting 310 for 8. So this is a pretty heavy lift. This is kind of at the height of, my strength stuff. Obviously a huge part, like I said, was not starting high school by doing this. I guess my point in showing that and saying that is basically, you obviously are not gonna, just throw on a massive amount of weight out of nowhere. I think as kids, if kids are watching, a really important part is just understanding that if you're doing 5 reps of something at 100 pounds on Monday, that on Wednesday you're doing 105. And then the next day you're doing 110. Something that my dad always told us, like when I was growing up, was first of all, do push-ups before we went to sleep. And, if the first day was 10, or the next day was 11, the next day was 12, and you always wanted to just try to, compete with your last score. So that's kind of the only thing that's leaving out is kind of, actually conditioning. Those are kind of, this kind of hit the agilities, the stickwork shooting, the lifting, conditioning. I don't know if you could really film that, but, I do a lot of 300s. That's a big thing that I do. I recently started to try to do time miles, kind of trying to run a mile as fast as I could. And then, taking like an 8-minute rest and then running another mile as fast as I could, stuff like that. Like I said, it's a whole lot. I dove into a lot of it, but I think that I did because that is how important I think that world has been for me. In order to be, kind of lucky enough to be here. I think that's definitely, a whole lot of time spent learning, whole lot of time spent developing, doing different things. It's definitely a big passion of mine, honestly, is that development piece.
Do you feel, Crawley, because like you personally have a passion for like that aspect of the game, when you coach, do you kind of is that something you really enjoy too? Just like taking kids from being raw freshmen to more developed sophomores until they're seniors?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I obviously I'm young in coaching, and this past year was my first year at Lehigh, so I don't know the whole feeling of like, a kid going from a freshman to a senior and understanding how that feels. But now that I am at Lehigh and will be here for, for some time, I'll be able to finally experience that. I definitely work extremely closely with our strength coach in, honestly sharing what I do. And, he tests stuff on me, and we, kind of go back and forth with that. So, on the strength side, yeah. But yeah, one of my favorite parts of coaching is being able to say that I'm going to work when I'm literally going to pick up kids at 8 a.m. to go shoot, or I'm going to meet some kids at, 8 o'clock. I have an optional shooting session because I'm working out anyway at 8 a.m. You guys can show up or not. I'm coming in, using film. I use a lot of film with that stuff, with that development stuff. It's honestly my favorite, my favorite part of it, of coaching entirely, is that, being able to be on the field, shoot the crap with the guys, but also with the intention, with some purpose to like, hey guys, like, this is what we actually have to get done, not just going out and pouring balls. Every coach has seen it. You throw out a couple balls at 15 yards in the hash and just kind of have a goalie and shoot like 4 shots on them. And, it's nothing realistic to what you're doing. But, I think a big piece of it is bringing them through like the process of actually being analytical about it and understanding like, all right, what are the shots that I'm seeing? Why am I struggling with them? What can I do to get better? I dove into a whole lot of that actually. With any time that you spend on something, you're gonna get some returns. So something that's been really cool is seeing some of those returns, but I haven't seen it over year to year, which is something that I'm really excited for the next couple of years about. That's going to be a really cool kind of next step for me, in terms of that coaching career, is like actually seeing the dividends that you put in.
You'll get there. You'll get to see them, and time will tell in the career, to see the development. And like you said, you just got 2 years in, but you're going to be a good one, bro. That's cool. I just want to touch back to your wall ball. I mean, I love how you're practicing catching bad balls. I remember Longman used to say it all the time, and if good players catch bad balls, and the fact that you're practicing that intricacy of the game is so important, because kids don't realize how important that is to hold a possession, because you just threw a quick money pass or whatever you call it. And it wasn't a perfect one to run ground, but he catches it and lets it go low to high, and it's like, all right, there you go. It's part of the game, and it's an important part. So I greatly appreciate that practice aspect.
I think also, I mean, a drill like that probably ends up being fun, but also I think guys sometimes are afraid to practice the stuff that isn't perceived as fun. Like Crawley, like you just said, what's fun is dumping out a bucket of balls at 10 in the hash and dropping my hands and trying to hit the crossbar every time. Like, that's fun, but I don't know if that turns into goals in a game. You got to be willing, and I like your approach with the analytics and having a growth mindset. Like, you got to master the stuff that you suck at so that you can be an elite player. You can't only work on the stuff that you're already good at. That's not going to make you any better. You're just going to continue to be good at the same old stuff, and you're never going to improve on the stuff you're bad at.
No doubt about it.
I mean, so we're in quarantine. You got your roommate and best friend. Let's pump it, man. Let's hear about what your thoughts are getting into it.
I'm curious about the training camp, the way the week's going to lay out. Let's hear a little bit about what you guys have on planned and why it's going to be the best season of pro lacrosse that people have watched yet.
Yeah, I mean, we got here yesterday. We had, they're taking COVID, as they should, extremely seriously. We had our take-home test that they actually sent to us. We had to do a spit test in front of a doctor via Zoom. That was, I guess, last Wednesday. We got here yesterday everyone, pretty much everyone on the East Coast was on a charter out of Newark. Baltimore, bus from Philly, bus from Long Island, all met at our charter yesterday, and we basically took a flight of 150 people. Probably the most important plane in lacrosse history. They keep saying we all on arrival had to basically go like 15 at a time, stand 6 feet apart, do the whole thing, do another test when we arrived, and then starting with a 24-hour quarantine before we could do anything We're all waiting our results right now. We have, some media stuff that we have to do later in the day. Once we're all deemed negative, we're going over to the locker room to do physicals as well, and stuff like that once everyone's negative. So that's kind of today. The way this week rolls out is we have 2 days up until Saturday. So starting tomorrow, we'll have, 2 practices a day, be able to kind of have a legit training camp experience before we kind of get into stuff next week. Probably going to be very similar to how training camp was last year. We've had a whole lot of Zoom calls with our coaches, and, we kind of know the expectations from them. And I think that they're, going to, do a really good job of preserving us. I think that with 4 games next week, we definitely, aren't going to be going a lot of live or anything, but, doing some skeleton for our offense, doing some odd man stuff, some stick work, some shooting, just to kind of get dialed in and back at it. So that's what this week looks like. I think it's going to be awesome. Come next week, everyone being here, and being able to really reflect on your last game and kind of move forward. In terms of the Atlas, we have a bunch of new faces, but a lot of the same as well. I think that that's going to be, I think that the core group that we're bringing back from last year, at least offensively, is good. It's going to be fun to kind of get back after it. I think last year, especially in the first half of the year, offensively, I think that we were crazy inefficient. I don't think that we did a great job of being on the same page. We did some things kind of in the middle of the year to develop some, at least some dialogue around, all right, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do you want to do? Like, hey, Paul, let's have you come out third and come out of the box so you can get a big run at a guy. For me, I tend to like to get behind the goal. So, all right, I'm going to work to get behind the goal. It doesn't have to be just jogging back there, but if I end up back there, we can play some big little, all those kinds of things. Brownie runs around and just kind of keeps running. So like, hey guys, go look for him. He'll be open, stuff, all these kinds of things that, you obviously have to develop, and quite frankly can't usually in a professional season because you don't have practices, you don't have, the whole works of a season that you usually would have. We started to kind of click later in the year. I think that we started to do a little bit better job. I think we're a little bit more efficient with the ball. We're making some better decisions on the offensive end, which was helping our defense and helping, us kind of control the pace of the game. So I'm excited for this training camp to kind of rehash those things. We have a couple new faces in, Romar Dennis, Brian Costabile, and most notably Rob Pinnell. I think that it would be, insane to think that our offense isn't going to look different with him being a part of it. He's, the best at what he does in terms of, and allow him to kind of work at the islands where, usually you'd say, hey, like, dodge a slide, move it. His kind of game is to, kind of dictate stuff at the islands, and for us to kind of move off of him, and for us to kind of understand some timing and spacing with, the way that he plays, and the way that he, operates behind. I'm really excited to kind of, go back to my roots of getting run over, like, for Wells Stanwick. I'll probably be doing the same thing with Rob, so I'm excited to, play with him from that. And honestly, the biggest thing that I've taken from all of, from PLL last year, MLL, when I was a part of that, it's really fun to learn the different ways that people play. I never knew Eric Law before last year, and I developed a really good relationship with him while we played. And, I loved hearing the way that he spoke about offense, the way that he spoke about 2-man games, the way that he spoke about spacing, because I knew he was a mouthpiece for Coach Brown at Denver. So learning from these guys and the way that they, you always pick up a term, you pick up a way to talk about something, you pick up a way to explain something. And honestly, you just get more and more exposure to like, all right, how are we going to massage and work these pieces to help us score goals? Because at any level, at the end of the day, you've got 6 guys, they've got 6 guys, and you got to figure out a way to score goals. Will it be the exact offenses that I run at Lehigh? Maybe, if it's really good, right? I mean, will it be, pieces of it that I've learned from, from Rob, from Eric Law, from Costabile, from Busick? We've got some really, really cool, we have like 6 coaches on our team, Busick, obviously recently being named the head coach at Cornell, was able to learn a lot from him. Jake Richard at Marquette, Kevin Understein at UNC, myself. We've got a lot of guys who speak the game, who know the game, and all of different kind of backgrounds and experiences. So it's like literally my favorite thing about the experience last year was the little things that I'd learn and hear from those guys, because, I'd be out of my mind to not be, at least listening and, using this notebook to write some stuff down at the end of the day that maybe will help me in the future. So that's, maybe a selfish takeaway that I'm really excited for, because it's, it's my job to be, in terms of, kind of always learning and adapting and changing with the little pieces that I'll learn from some of these other guys. And, I think that's gonna be a really valuable experience.
I like that you said that, like, Brownie moves all over the field, because he's been consistent with that in this interview. He's been all over the room, like everywhere. He's in the background. He's in the bathroom.
I'm so bored. I'm so bored right now. I just walk around picking up every stick in the thing, just like mess with the ball, walk over to the other side of the room, come back, get different ones.
Brownie, I got to say, man.
Consistency is king. You got to live your life a certain way, and it transcends the field and the hotel.
Makes it easy.
Brownie, I also don't want your coaches being like, hey, because you're so bored, you like readjusted your stick 5 times and now I can't throw straight. So I don't want your coaches blaming us for you guys like retweaking your shooting. Yeah. Oh man. But I mean, to be honest, Crawley, I think your takeaways are selfless, because at the end of the day, I mean, you're trying to learn and get better, but you're also doing that to make the teams you're a part of more successful, right? Whether it's you as a player or as a coach. Sure. So I think when you do that, your teammates probably appreciate it. The kids that are going to watch this interview who play for you at Lehigh, or your recruits they're going to appreciate that, because they're like, wow, I'm playing for a guy, or I'm competing with a guy who's just trying to get better at what he does, which I think at the end of the day, everyone wants to be around a guy like that. So I appreciate your perspective. I think it's refreshing, and I think that's why you're continuing to be successful at everything you're doing. So keep it going, man.
I appreciate that.
I feel like Crawley's always been just an unreal glue guy. It's like
total glue guy.
Back to like FLG in 9th grade, just absolute glue guy. That's why I said he wasn't 7th emotionally on that attack.
That's right. Not like an Elmer's glue. He's like a gorilla glue guy. He's like
locker room guy.
Level.
Sounds
locker room guy.
Hey, I'll take that. If I can help that way, that's awesome.
Love it.
Well, it sounds like you guys are going to have an awesome experience together, and it's really cool. Your outlook, like Corey said, I think your outlook is great, and good luck to you. I hope best of luck to the Atlas. Right?
Oh,
yeah, we can't root for everybody, so.
Look, see, we got our lunch delivery.
Wow,
nice.
Some artichoke, tomato, chicken.
Nice.
See,
very good.
See, it looks pretty good. Hold on.
What's the company?
And look at this. Brownie's getting the assist on this one.
Flippo's getting a plug for the company. I like it.
Yeah, no. What's the company? I need to hear it.
Superfood.
Superfood. You hear that, folks? Superfood.
We'll be DMing you.
Super FD.
Super FD.
Done. We're growing, man. We're going to explode, Krause, and you're a big part of it, and we appreciate it. And if you don't mind, let all the Lehigh kids on the offensive side at least to know that they won't be able to play unless they subscribe and follow and view. Yeah, no doubt.
You got it.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, really guys. Thanks for having me on. A lot of kind words from you guys, and I really appreciate it. Excited to see how it all shakes out. And if you need any help in the future, if whatever it is, would love to help.
You're the best. We appreciate it. Good luck. Thanks, and enjoy that food.
Yeah, cool boys. All right, fellas. See you later.
Go make history.